is Buffalo, the beginning and the end of our San Francisco and California Zephyr trip. And the thing about this leg is that I felt cheated. But oh, was I right? We were flying business, this time as a reward, but booking today about 2 months in advance like we did, it's about $400 per person, which actually isn't bad, but still, for that amount, I'd expect not to have to check myself in, especially right beside fully staffed check-in counters. I mean, I do realize this is the new normal, and United did the same to us on their much more expensive transatlantic from Chicago a day later, and it's just like that time in 1922 when I felt cheated because my Landau was no longer allowed on the highway, and we're average intelligence so can manage, in fact, have done in the past, in economy, but from our 2 national careers back in Europe, I was expecting more this sort of thing. I certainly did not expect the check-in staff to have to wait till we did it ourselves, only to then replace the tags on our baggage and reprint the boarding passes. Why, oh why? By the way, 2 check-in bags are free with business, but as it's at least twice the price of economy, where it's $40 per bag, just for this, it's not worth it. But alright, moving on. The next thing being security, where you do get fast track, or you can pay the government to go TSA pre-approved, but that's not in your ticket. Either way, Sod's Law ensured that we didn't need it. And so landed on the airside nice and early, as Buffalo was a bit of a drive, including crossing a border, and you'd rather be too early than too late, right? So, having come all this way, at this point we were really looking forward to a drink and a bite at the lounge. Where, however, we bounced off the door. Because in Buffalo, it's an airport lounge, not an airline lounge. So they said, although it doesn't actually matter. Even if it's an American Airlines lounge like in Chicago, you're still not getting in on domestic business. Here, not included. And as the saying goes, it was at this point that she realized she was comparing apples to pears. Because in Europe, a flight of almost 2 hours like this one is almost guaranteed to take you to a different country. So I'm thinking international business. Not domestic. Still, BA gives you lounge access even on domestic. LOT doesn't want to, but they're fair. They just don't sell business on domestic. Full stop. It's cleaner somehow. But back to Buffalo, where if you want the lounge you have to pay for it, and you won't even get food. So instead, be brave, venture out, explore the many advantages of this really quite good little airport, which are as follows. that was a little by the by since we're here anyway, and I prefer Buffalo to Chicago, where if you're going domestic from Elgate, you're 15 minutes forced marched from anything, except, thank God, toilets. And so here we are on board, and it's an Embraer, a 175, which means that unlike on the CRJ the last time, everybody gets to keep their carry-ons, even the really big ones. Anyway, here is the cabin, all 4 rows of it, in a 1+2 configuration, which makes the rest of the airplane look a little wonky. And this is the seat. What can I say? It's a seat. A leather one, quite wide with good legroom and good storage, which, if you're the taller, wider kind of person, will probably matter even for under 2 hours. It's also high enough for a well-packed backpack. And a lot more armchair-like than some others. What I'm not a fan of is a table in the armrest, especially if it's temperamental.
Glummed it, didn't he?
But you don't need to worry about this on domestic business because there'll be no food anyway, unless it's a pretty long flight. So here's your drinks tray. And you know, given that this particular cabin has seen some mileage, tables in the armrests might be for the best. Because with a little bit of turbulence, well, just imagine your lunch and wine on the back of this. And speaking of turbulence, well, let's go fly!
Come first before helping others. Smoking, vaping, or the use of smokeless tobacco is not allowed on the aircraft. A water landing is unlikely, but just in case, there is a life vest in a pouch under your seat. If inside
Good afternoon, folks. On the flight deck, this Captain speaking. I'd like to welcome you aboard American Eagle Flight 4740 from Chicago O'Hare to Buffalo. Today's flight is going to take us about an hour, maybe a little bit more, cruising out to 33,000 feet. Should be a decent ride, but in the event of any rough air, I'll have the seatbelt sign on. This is it right here. When you see that, please respect me. See the seatbelt fastened. This is for your safety. If you need anything, please let your flight attendants know to do what they can for you. Beyond that, not much to report. So sit back, relax, enjoy the ride. We will get you to Buffalo as quickly and safely as we can. Once again, welcome aboard.
Use caution when opening overhead bins, items in them may have shifted. And please keep the aisle and galley areas clear. There are 2 lavatories, there's one up front and one in the back. Snack. You may also purchase alcoholic beverages using a debit or a credit card. And just a reminder, drinking personal alcohol that you brought on board is not permitted.
The service is very small snacks with very large drinks. Enough of those and you won't even feel hungry. Also, the small cabin increases your chances of getting them before the turbulence kicks in and stops the service.
In the event of turbulence, the flight attendants will need to be seated. We apologize if this interrupts our service.
There'll be no Gremlin low review for this one. It's tiny and unremarkable. So the last thing is the Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi will be available shortly. You may access AA.com free of charge to view flight connections and other travel information. Complimentary streaming video entertainment is also available.
If free with our tickets, the American app didn't want to work for us, likely we were doing something wrong, but maybe you will too. So bring something to do offline.
Feel free to be using your phones and tablets. Make sure they're in airplane mode and either placed in the pocket or held. Please ensure your seatbelt is fastened.
So with this on the send, a quick tally up. So the airport experience, very good in Buffalo, less good in Chicago, and either way, no different than economy. The seat, big and comfy, which might matter if it's more than 2 hours. No food, capricious Wi-Fi, so what it really boils down to are the huge drinks, which, depending on your personal capacity, might be worth a chunk of change. And no additional fee for the check-in bags.
When opening overhead bins, items may have shifted. At this time, you may use your cellular service. On behalf of American and our One World Alliance partners, thank you so much for flying with us. We hope to see you again soon.
Weather in Chicago, 41 degrees outside, winds out of the northeast, and it is overcast, skies. Gate today, for those of you making connections, is going to be L3, that's Lima 3. Appreciate you joining us this afternoon. We'll have you on the ground shortly.
As for the bags, well, maybe you don't even need them. You have a carry-on of generous size included in economy with, I couldn't believe it, no weight limit. It looked as if that worked just fine for most of our fellow passengers. So, can't say it was a bad experience, but equally as well, I can't say I can't think of other ways to spend $200 of the price difference between the two classes. Anyway, this is where our real trip begins, and also with a nice wraparound fashion where it ends, as in the previous 10 or so episodes. And so, well, where shall we go next? Yeah, that's Daddy's. And that will be mine.
I made them right.
A70? Yep. Okay, thank you. All right.
Gremlin on the road.
Maybe you told come. To leave you here.
You and Donkey have a good time. Maybe you can get a job at the airport.
I think I'm a bit too young.
Goes into the ground.
Okay, can I kick it down?
Yeah. Go on. Hey.